Welcome to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay.
Welcome to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay. My name is host Mike Jokum. Matt and Jess join me to talk everything Pocono and look forward to Gateway. This week brought to you by Grip Mat, the world's first flexible non-slip tool mat developed by an Air Force mechanic. Go to their website, gripmat.com, GRYPMAT.com, and use promo code PLP10 for 10% off. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to discuss Pocono, and I know there is plenty to discuss. Just a quick recap for those who maybe didn't watch. The top five were Power, Dixon, Pagano, Ferrucci, and Newgarden. Mike Knapp's live show prediction of Ferrucci finishing third was very close. So let's dive right into it. The lap one incident, which has been discussed pretty much day and night since Sunday, involved, a lot of guys. Sato, Rossi, Hunter-Reay, Hinch, and Rosenquist. Obviously, we saw Rosenquist taken to the hospital. Thankfully, he was released rather quickly and has already been cleared to drive. So before we get into a lot here, what were your thoughts on the early incident?
There are so many thoughts. The easiest way to say it is it was extremely unfortunate, especially since it was on lap one, to take out some guys who really had a good shot at the race. It was also unfortunate for the track because, unfortunately, the track already had a stigma that I think is pretty unfair to begin with, and this did not help anything.
I was incredibly frustrated. You can ask my parents, they were watching the race with me. I was almost enraged to a certain degree that based on what we saw last year with the Wickens accident, that, two corners into the race this year, we kind of get another just huge accident. And from all accounts, from what I could tell, was, drivers being very greedy on the first lap of the race, of a 500-mile race. And in particular, in my opinion, based on what I've seen with Takuma Sato's actions, I was very disappointed in him. I've always liked Takuma Sato. I think he's a great guy off the track. This situation right here was one of those where I was very disappointed in what I saw based on the replays, and there was just no place for something like that on the first lap of a 500-mile race, in my opinion.
Yeah, you like Scott Dixon said in the post race is that, hey, I feel bad for Pocono, and I do too. After last year's, with Robbie's accident, you don't want to see anything happen again like that. And then you see Rosenquist's car. It's probably a good thing his car went in kind of in the air, but backwards almost. I think that definitely helped lessen the impact. But I don't know why. Listen, you have Hunter-Reay, who's not going to give an inch, Rossi, who's not giving an inch, and establish their positions the entire length of that back straightaway. Sato, in my opinion, should have backed out and just said, hey, like Matt just said, there's 499.5 miles to go, or 199.5 laps to go, I should say. So I do feel bad for Pocono. It sucks because it's not track's fault, and a lot of people are saying it is or it isn't, or it's IndyCar's fault or what have you. But in the grand scheme of things, it was everybody getting way too crazy for the first 2/3 of a lap of a 500-mile race. I've seen a million video angles of it going back and forth, and yes, you can say, oh, this guy could have backed out. They all could have backed out. But the bottom line is Rossi and Hunter-Reay were there, and Sato came in last. And I think he should have known better, but that's why I'm here, and he's the race car driver.
Well, that's just it, though. Third man in. We saw the same thing with Kanan a couple years ago at Texas when there was the 9-car crash halfway through the race. He was the third man in and kind of did the same thing. So with this one, Sato, he's going to defend himself. I think he kind of came out right away and said he thought he was clear. And then he goes onto Twitter and says, well, I didn't move over. I didn't get that personally. And then, he and the team, Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, shared that one video clip of the onboard shot, saying, hey, he didn't move. But then, you look at the other angles from, turn 2 looking back at the drivers coming towards them. And then you look at Rossi's onboard, and I still disagree with what they're trying to sell everybody. And, unfortunately, people on Twitter kind of looked at that video and based their whole opinion on that without looking at all the other stuff. And so, again, like you said, it's just so much left in the race for Sato to kind of do that, and really careless, again, keeping in mind what happened last year and kind of how Hinch touched on it in his interview, to just do that and to see just the sheer carnage that happened. I can't stress enough how thankful we are that nobody was seriously hurt in this accident.
Just because you can go 3 wide there doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. Wow. Hold on a second here. Let me find the applause button. I forgot what color button it was. Yeah, especially, you can go 3 wide through the straightaway, sure, but eventually the straightaway ends, and that's not Pocono Raceway's fault. Everybody knows the straightaway ends and goes to a corner. It's just, common knowledge. I don't think I really need to harp on that one. And Hinch's comment, like Matt just touched on, is really, I think, the most important point. After last year, when everybody got a little crazy early on, did drivers need to speak to each other before this weekend or this past weekend's race? I don't think so. So I see where Hinch is coming from there, and I think the biggest downer is, we're robbed of, if Rossi doesn't get involved in that accident, and let's say he doesn't even win the race. So Joseph Newgarden finished 5th. Let's say Rossi finishes, I don't know, 1 place in front of him or 1 place behind him. So they're essentially roughly the same points-wise going into the last 3 races of the year. And I'm not saying 35 points that Rossi is back is, tough to beat at all. That's still relatively easy. I don't want to say easy to overcome, but it's still within grasp. But we could have been robbed of a closer championship finish because of an over-aggressive move.
Right. And, the other guys involved, this is Hunter Ray and Hinch were both involved in the Wickens crash last year, so it's just unfortunate to see them both collected in this one as well. It's, Hinch and Hunter Ray both have had some really bad accidents at Pocono, so I'm glad they're okay from that one. And for Rosenquist, he kind of hesitated to join IndyCar a couple of years ago, and, probably talking with Ganassi this year, I bet one of his hesitations to go full-time was ovals in general, but then, seeing what happened to Wickens at Pocono, it's got to cause him to be a little hesitant. And so I feel really bad for him that in the second corner of the race that maybe he wasn't looking forward to that much, that, he ends up flipping over and making contact with the fence. So I really hope that doesn't, deter Rosenquist's lust for ovals, because he seems like he's got up to speed with them pretty quick. And hopefully he can just, shake this off and have a good run at Gateway.
Yeah. That's the best hope for him right now. Kind of just get his confidence back, and hopefully the other guys can have a nice solid race also. And hopefully Takuma will not throw it in someplace that maybe is questionable at that particular moment, because like you guys mentioned, not to throw a bunch of shade his direction, because it really was, a 3-man party there, but he was the last one to the party. And unfortunately, he's got to take the brunt of it. So hopefully going into Gateway, we have a nice clean race, and it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to being there.
Yeah. So with that, I think we'll move on from just our general thoughts of the accident. A fan question comes from Ted Nesbitt at Ted NESNA. Have you guys lost your taste for Pocono? Has IndyCar outgrown the track?
Absolutely not to both of them. I think that, you see it all the time on social media, that Pocono was specifically designed for IndyCars, and that didn't change overnight just because of an accident or a few accidents over the past few years. As far as have I lost my taste Heck no. I come from Indianapolis. It's known for having some really bad accidents through the years. I mean, you know, unfortunately, that's part of motorsports, and you kind of just got to learn to live with it. But obviously, the drivers need to kind of calm down a little bit when they are on these ovals that do produce the high speeds, because it can lead to something like this. So I don't think that it's Pocono's fault at all. And so, nope, I have not lost my taste. I hope we go back.
Yeah, I don't think IndyCar has outgrown the track. And as Jess said in one of her first answers, that, you know, just unfortunately Pocono just has a stigma to it. And what happened on Sunday, you know, obviously didn't help. And as far as some of the drivers' comments about Pocono, I can't remember who in particular, because there were several that came to the defense of Pocono. But I can't remember who in particular. Maybe it was Dario or Hunter A, who's saying, you know, listen, what happened in 2015 with Justin Wilson, what happened last year with Wickens, what happened this year, that could easily just as happen at a place like Texas or in Indianapolis. And it just, for some reason, Pocono kind of just gets the rotten luck of having these incidents over and over again. So I wouldn't say I've lost my taste for Pocono. I was a little on edge before the race, and I think that's part of the reason why I was so upset after the crash, is because I was dreading something like that happening, and then for it to happen 30 seconds in the race, it made me feel, you know, very emotional and animated. And I still want to see IndyCar come back, though. I think, you know, if, like Jess said, if drivers can just calm down, if we can make a couple changes, which we'll touch on here in a second, I think IndyCar and Pocono can still have a successful relationship, especially since the crowd was excellent and apparently sponsorship was up and things like that. So that was good.
Yeah, you know, the crowd was much better. The sponsorship at the track improved. I don't know any numbers on either, but just looking up into the crowd, it was definitely much improved. Shout out to my Uncle Jim and his friend Jim, who made the trip for their first ever IndyCar race. I think they had a good time despite the rain-shortened weather. My answer is the same as Jess and Matt. I haven't lost my taste. I don't think IndyCar has outgrown Pocono. I saw somebody on Twitter, right? Well, IndyCar in 1971, average speed was 170. Now it's, you know, 210 around Pocono roughly. Well, that means it's more unsafe. Not really. I mean, the IndyCar safety level has grown exponentially since 1970 to the point where it wouldn't concern me at all. Obviously, there are unfortunate things that happened, like Robbie last year, and thank God Felix was okay this year. But with safety advancements and more safety, you know, in the future, obviously the AFP helped Hinch this past weekend. If you watch the replay, there's, I don't know, a piece of car, I don't know what it was, that kind of bounces off the track and gets deflected away. So, you know, that right there goes to show that IndyCar is paying attention to safety and, you know, shouldn't worry about Pocono. And, you know, sort of like Matt, it was a very emotional couple of minutes as we were trying to figure out what was unfolding on the track after the accident. But glad to see everybody's okay. And I'll leave it at that. I would be happy to see IndyCar back at Pocono. I'm a little disappointed some, you know, drivers who weren't racing this weekend kind of rushed to judgment. I get it. I totally understand Robbie's tweet and, you know, frustration. If I were him, I'd probably feel the same way. But some of the other guys, let's just, you know, before we tweet, let's gather our emotions first, as many of us do. So with that being said, do you guys think there are changes that could be made to Pocono to see either safety improved or accidents and their severity prevented?
Yeah, the one thing I would say is kind of a lot of people commented on Twitter was just the start procedure for that race. You know, they should have waved it off. It was a very ugly start. I don't understand the idea of having the cars tiptoe down the front straight, making sure everybody's in a nice packed 2x2 formation, and then everybody in the back half of the field just jumps and then slows down. And what we saw last year was Rahal punting Piggott because Rahal couldn't slow down in time. I don't understand why they can't mandate maybe the leader take off at like the exit of 3 or something, or maybe like at the little sooner than what they have it at now. And then on top of that, to just allow that, or just to mandate that the rows of 2 don't have to be nose to tail. If they had a little gap between them, we wouldn't see cars going 3-4 wide into turn 1, and then at the exit of the turn with some guys lifting, you see, another opportunity for you guys to go 3 wide again. If there's more separation, maybe gives you guys less dirty air, less lifting, things like that, so they can try to be a little more spread out by the time they get to turns 2 and turns 3.
I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I actually think they should be packed up like that. That's kind of how the rule has always been, and I get frustrated when it's the opposite, when the tail is kind of lagging behind and they still throw the green. So I get what you're saying. It could possibly help with the 3 wide, but at the same time, it might not, because guys are just too antsy. And I think, I think it was Hinch afterwards was saying that, they didn't talk specifically about this in the driver meeting. Well, maybe they need to again. And I know they shouldn't have to, but maybe they need to talk about it again. And as far as some kind of major change to the car or something like that, I think that it is kind of a moot point almost, because we're getting ready to see the car change anyways with the new safety device. So they're going to act differently in accidents anyways. So let's wait until we see how the cars react to things next year. But unfortunately, with the design of these cars basically being like an upside down airplane wing, they do lift off the ground. And I'm not an engineer. I don't know how to prevent that. But I think that maybe, with the new safety devices and everything, maybe people can be a little bit more appeased with the safety of the actual car, so that we could go back and have some good races.
Yeah. Just adding on to what Jess said, I agree. And instead of answering the question, I'm going to pose a second question to you guys. Could Pocono do anything different, either, I don't know, catch fence wise or safer barrier wise, to make the track any safer?
I think they come a long ways. I think, I remember watching a NASCAR race. It was like, I think early 2010s. I can't remember who, but there was a car that there was a little notch in their infield wall, and it was literally like almost a 90-degree angle. And one car just happened to conveniently hit it at that 90-degree angle, and it just sheared the engine out of the front of the car, and it was very violent. Super glad whoever that was walked away from it. I believe they had the wind knocked out of them pretty severely, but seeing, that's kind of what I thought of Pocono when Indycar announced they were going there in 2013. I'm like, ooh, I don't know about this. But, seeing a lot of the safety improvements they've made to the infield walls, the safer barrier, the fencing all the way around the track, which wasn't a thing when CART was there back in the day. I think the track itself can, I'm not sure what else they can do other than make the turns wider. But I don't think, again, that's going to help, because another problem with Sato's move going down into turn 3 is that turn 3 is primarily a one groove turn. And so they're going to, if they are going to be 3 wide, they're going to mad scramble to try to get down to one lane, because I don't know if the second and third lanes would have been sufficient for them to get through the corner. Okay. So they're going to try to get down to the inside right away. But again, that's not really a viable solution in my opinion. So to answer your question, I don't think they can.
I think that making the turns wider would just make things worse, to be honest, because then guys are going to think maybe, well, it's a little wider, so maybe I can push it here, when really we all know they shouldn't have tried, even when it was only 2 lanes. As far as fencing and things like that, I don't remember who it was. I saw on Twitter earlier that unfortunately they didn't really show it on the broadcast. And sometimes that happens, due to time constraints and such. But they showed the initial fence repair, and they were doing basically what they did last year, which was put up like a piece of fence, and everybody was angry with that. But I did see somebody that was there and actually got to see it afterwards, that they had patched it basically the same way as like Indianapolis does. They covered the hole with a new roll of fencing. So they took down the patch job and basically did a better job. Unfortunately, so I think they do a pretty good job. I mean, everybody's been complaining about, the fence being a chain link fence. Well, I've never been to a track that didn't have a chain link fence as their fence. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. Like, that is what the fences are. At Indianapolis, it is painted black now, so it's a little harder to see. So maybe they think it's different. I don't know, but that's just what the fencing is. So I think that as far as the safety innovations at the actual speedway, I think they're doing a great job. I mean, our blogger posted a blog today, and he was saying, almost every concrete surface there has safer barrier on it. That's amazing. So, I think, in my opinion, they're doing a good job.
Yeah, I agree. Nice writing by Mr. Knapp there. You can check it out on the Pit Lane Parlay website. But the only thing I'm going to add, and maybe, I know this year was kind of tough with, the weather all weekend, being typical northeastern Pennsylvania weather, and the forecast changing at least 3 times an hour. But maybe add a third practice session. Just get guys a little more comfortable around there. Maybe if they're out there for a third practice, they can get more comfortable. They can get more comfortable running around other cars, and maybe that'll just slow them down on that first lap. So with that being said, wrap it up with, I'm sorry, we've got more to go. I'm getting ahead of myself. Another fan question here before we change Pocono topics. Thank you to our buddy George. You can find him on Twitter at ButtsIsNuts4. Do we think there is an appropriate fine or punishment for Mr. Sato for the avoidable contact penalty?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I personally think that I'm going to go with the kind of old school way of doing things that we don't see all that often anymore. And I think due to the severity of how this all played out and some of the other accidents that he has unfortunately been ruled by Indycar to be, the starter, basically all avoidable contact type situations. I think that he should be suspended for 1 race. I don't think that would be too harsh. I think it would kind of also put into people's minds that IndyCar's not playing around. And, when it comes to safety, they need to think about what they're doing before they shove their car in a hole that's not there.
I agree with the 1 race suspension, and kind of to Jess' point, IndyCar needs to step up and say, hey guys, we're not putting up with this crap anymore, especially at a place like Pocono. But, when she said that, this isn't exactly Sato's first time, all we have to do is look back to Mid-Ohio when he took out both aero cars in the first turn. And it's not his first time causing an accident, and he's not the only driver on the grid that's caused an accident, to his defense. But it just seems like, Sato kind of gets himself into, poor positions to maybe hurt other drivers' races or, take them out. And with what we saw at Pocono with the severity of the crash, I think it's a good chance for IndyCar to step up and say, enough of this. And, we need to have you sit out a race to kind of reevaluate, some of the situations you've gotten yourself in. Obviously, with the gateway entry list coming out today, we know it didn't happen, but that's what I would have done.
Yeah, at minimum, I don't know, a grid penalty or something like that. I can't remember the last time we've seen something like that in IndyCar. And I know it's not even written in the rule book. One other thing I did want to touch on that we don't have written here. There was a lot of uproar over Rossi, Hinch, and Hunter Ray getting 10-lap penalties for work during the red flag. The IndyCar rulebook, and you can look it up in Chapter 7 if you want to read all of it, states that it is a minimum 2-lap penalty to be determined by IndyCar based on how long they're working on the cars. So it is pretty much at IndyCar's discretion, and also the length of time the guys are working on the cars. So I'll just leave it at that. Just wanted to let everybody know that it actually is in the rule book. So I will move on from there a little.
Did you guys wait just a second? Sorry. Did you guys see also Ari Leyendyke chimed in on that as well on Twitter?
You missed that one.
Okay, so he explained because of some of the outrage that was directed specifically at him. He explained that, they were working for roughly, I think it was 30 minutes or something. And he was saying, in a typical race type scenario, they would have been like 40 or 50 laps further down than what their 10-lap penalty that they were assessed was. So basically they try to kind of offset it with, if the race was green, how long would they have lost, or how many laps would they have lost. So they actually went pretty easy on them if you look at it from that standpoint.
Yeah, just thank you for further clearing that up. It's a shame that Rossi didn't get another 3. I self-censored myself again there. 3 or 4 laps before the lightning hit, because he would have gained another, I think, 2 positions to get up to 16th or 17th, wherever. Let's see where Piggott finished here. Switch screens.
Yeah, he would have only gained 1 spot.
1 spot. Okay, never mind then. So moving on, a little known thing, because I don't think they were able to show it on TV. During Will Power's last pit stop, he had some sort of fuel issue. I don't think he got enough fuel in the car, where they ended up having to change out the entire fuel system during when they thought the race was going to continue. So this is part fan question, part just discussion. Stephen King asked, do you think that Power's fuel issue helped him catch Scott Dixon, in the fact that he kind of figured, hey, I have to go full rich here because A, I've got less fuel and I'm going to need to pit soon, and B, the weather's coming?
Yes and no. I think yes in that I think Power had just had a really good car first and foremost, and him battling his way back after the cut tire or whatever issue they had after the first lap accident. I think he just had a good car, but obviously if your car is going to be lighter on fuel, that's definitely not going to hurt. I'm just kind of surprised. I would imagine that Dixon was probably going full rich too. If they knew the rain was coming, then, we're good on fuel. If it's going to rain in 10 minutes, we'll be fine. I think maybe other drivers might have turned up the wick too. So maybe Power's car was a little lighter, but I think he just had an insanely good car, to be honest. I'm not sure how much the fuel helped him.
I think it might have helped a little bit, because I think, teams always kind of question exactly when the rain is going to hit. And I think that Dixon kind of was playing it a little safe, because he only pitted, it looks like 4 times, where a lot of guys had actually pitted 5 times. So I think he was playing it a little bit safe, and Will knew that he was going to have to stop again, so it kind of didn't matter. But I still think in the end, if it would have continued on, that Will probably would have been able to come back, even if he had to make an extra pit stop. So I think his car was just, it was good.
I feel like we're agreeing an abnormally amount.
Disagree. Just say something else.
Well done. I think the weather played more into it than anything, because, about 20 minutes to a half hour before, you could see the clouds roll in. But his car being lighter, combined with how good his car was, I mean, that sequence with Simon Pagenaud side by side and passing back and forth was excellent racing. And then being able to pass Scott Dixon so easily probably more has to do with how well his car was set up. So with that being said, outside of lap one, pretending lap one didn't happen, was the racing better this year at Pocono, worse, or the same?
I'm gonna lean toward the same. Obviously, lap one not being there changes things quite a bit because there were, like I said, a lot of good guys, a lot of guys running up front that could have made it a lot more fun to watch in the end. So that kind of changed it a bit, but I think it was pretty much the same for the most part.
Yeah, we unanimously agreed that last year's race was the worst from just kind of a quality standpoint. And, with Wickens' crash, that put a hamper and everything. But then the racing itself was just atrocious. There was just no passing. So I thought the racing this year was a bit better. I think we did see a little more passing and guys being able to draft a little easier. However, I still think there's something that's amiss with the current super speedway package. Indy was a lot better this year, but Pocono is still kind of just okay. I think the pit stops definitely help spice it up a little bit with guys in hot tires versus cold tires, but it's still nowhere near as good as it was maybe in 2017 or 16.
Yeah, it's definitely not quite up to 2017 levels, but I think it was definitely improved versus last year. Like I just touched on, the Pagano power battle was fantastic I know it was only 2 laps, but definitely much improved. There was a little bit of passing throughout the field that maybe wasn't shown on TV, but so I'll say better with the caveat, like Matt said, that it's not quite the level of 2016 and 2017. So we'll wrap it up before we discuss our pre-race predictions. Your biggest surprise and biggest disappointments of the weekend?
I think the biggest surprise for me is the rookie there that finished 4th. I think Santino Ferrucci just continues to amaze me, even though I feel like I'm at that level now where I have a lot of respect for him on the track. And the way he handled that first lap crash by just, sending it on the outside, I thought that was very courageous of him. And to be up there mixing it with some champions is awesome for him. So I'll give him my biggest surprise. My biggest disappointment, outside of maybe anybody who was swept up in the first lap crash, I thought not necessarily Spencer Pigot was disappointing. It was disappointing to see the result. He was doing so well. It was definitely destined for maybe a 6th, 7th, 8th place finish. He was doing really well, and just to have a mechanical failure ruin his race is just a really bummer to see. He's had some bad luck this year, but I thought he was on his way for another good result.
I'm going to go with Ed Carpenter as my good surprise. I think he's had some struggles on the few races that he has run lately, and I think he did fairly well. And then I'm going to say my biggest disappointment. That one's hard. I think I'm going to go with Colton Herta on this one because he kind of just took himself out. Unfortunately, I don't think there was any mechanical reason, at least not that I saw. So we kind of have to just blame him on this one. And unfortunately, his luck hasn't been great, and this didn't help that at all.
So for my surprise of the weekend is actually who I thought would struggle this weekend in Carlin Racing. And, finishing, Charlie Kimball finishing 10th, Connor Daly finishing 11th is not world beating. Oh my God, they had the best weekend ever. But considering they started 21st and 22nd, they were able to stay clean all day, run, competitively. It is a great weekend for Carlin Racing, and they should be, very happy and confident with how the cars performed heading into this weekend at Gateway. My disappointment, if I'm avoiding the crash, you guys really took the 2 I was going to pick.
Low-hanging fruit. Come on.
I don't want to do that, but I don't really have much of a choice. I'm not going to pick that one. I'm going to go with Zach Veach. And I know he gained 5 places, but he kind of gained 5 places because 5 cars crashed, actually more than 5 cars crashed. But his Andretti I shouldn't say his Andretti teammates because Marco, unfortunately,
He was technically the highest finishing Andretti. Technically.
I thought he would show more. I think he finished decent there last year, but I was expecting more from him this weekend. I know starting 18th was tough because of the rain out in qualifying, but to not finish in the, where Ericsson finished around, 12th or so, I thought he'd be able, or not Ericsson, I'm sorry, the Carlin cars, just outside, in and outside of the top 10. I thought he'd have a couple more places in him, and he just, finishing a lap down and not being super competitive was a little bit of a letdown. So with that, just to recap and put everybody on the spot here, I predicted Graham Rahal would do well. He quote unquote qualified 8th, finished 9th. It's kind of fine. I predicted Carlin would struggle, so I did not have a good weekend. Jess said Rossi would do well and Marco would struggle. We're going to give Jess points on this one. Can't really blame Rossi there. Matt predicted Power would do well and Takuma Sato would struggle. I think Matt hit a home run on this one.
Is that about as good as you can do it?
Yeah, and even just willpower winning is automatic home run on that one. So that will conclude discussing Pocono for now. I'm sure there will be plenty more Pocono discussion going forward, whether the track is back or not. Quick shout out to all of our awesome Patreon subscribers. The group continues to grow, and it's a lot of fun to talk with everybody on our Twitter group every week. It was great to meet and grab dinner with Michael Goodyear and his girlfriend this weekend as part of our weekend get-together. So thank you to everybody who continues to subscribe and listen. And let's keep going. Yeah.
You guys are awesome. We really appreciate it. So we're going to move on to Stump the Host. I got it this week. It's going to be for both of you. Either of you two can chime in. Just let me finish the question first, and whoever just gets the answer first can get a point. And there's 3 questions here. We're going to play a little game of Who Am I? I'm going to tell you what years I drove an Indycar and the 3 teams that I drove for, and I want you to tell me what driver I am. You guys got it?
There's no chance I get this.
I stuck to more modern-ish drivers, so there's going to be 2 sort of ones that you guys should get maybe quickly, and one that maybe might make you think a little bit. But here we go. First one, I drove an IndyCar, and this doesn't have to be consecutive years, keep in mind, but I drove an IndyCar from 2005. My last year was 2018, and I drove for Rahal Letterman Racing, Andretti Autosport, and Ed Carpenter Racing. Who am I?
Danica.
See, Mr. I'm not going to get any. Gets the first one right away.
All right, so sometimes I'm a little harsh on myself.
So, yeah, you need confidence. All right. So that's one for Mike. Second one, I drove an IndyCar from 2011 to 2019, and I've driven for Newman Haas, Schmidt Peterson Motorsports, and Andretti Autosport. Who am I?
Hinchcliffe?
Yes. Jess, what's going on here?
I'm taking a nap.
All right. Last one here. I drove an IndyCar from 2010 to 2015, and I drove for Andretti Autosport, HVM Racing, and KV Racing. Who am I?
Simona.
That's 3 for 3 for host Mike, Mr. I'm not going to get a single one of these right.
I'm sorry, Jess. I didn't mean to rub it in.
I was going to say, can you round of applause yourself when you're the one running the soundboard? Is that
whatever I want?
Oh, I guess. I mean, we should make written rules about that. Maybe Jess and I should make rules that you have to follow as far as when you can use the soundboard.
I like that idea.
Because you can't boo Jess whenever you want.
I didn't boo her. I just applauded myself.
Well, I know, but that's almost like a
same
boo.
diff.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
That's okay. I took a little nap, and while I took my little nap, I was dreaming. And guess what I was dreaming of, guys?
Uh-oh.
Is it time for the new jingle?
The Joker lap. All right. So I touched on this earlier, and it got me to thinking because, It's what I do. So you guys are going to be engineers, I guess. Now, I don't know what else to call you besides engineers.
But something else.
And you're going to design a new catch fence. But here's the catch.
Oh, no.
It can't be chain link fence. So what are you guys going to make your catch fence out of?
I hate you.
Oh, no, because this is like age-old debate.
Yep.
I feel like no matter what I say here, we're going to get some sort of reply on social media saying, you're not an engineer.
Hey guys, let's put a
throwing Matt and I under the bus for the social media world to chew up and spit out. And I'm not going to look at my phone all weekend, so
we're going to put a little asterisk that this is for fun, that none of us are engineers, and just take it with a grain of salt and laugh at us.
Yeah, it should be more like, you guys are a couple couch heroes at home that have internet access.
It's called the Joker lap, y'all.
Oh, man. I mean...
did that in a soundboard piece.
It's the Joker lap, y'all. Let's see. Mike, do you want me to go first?
Yes, please.
Well, I mean, the serious answer would be plexiglass. The non-serious answer would be if we could find a way... And I know this is a joke that keeps going on, but if we could find a way to make craft singles translucent and build a fence out of that, because craft singles are basically indestructible. And correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Actually, no, you're not wrong on that.
They're basically indestructible.
I don't think they even melt. I don't think they really melt.
Hot day, we're fine. We get an Iowa type, event this year. We're fine. Got craft singles. They won't melt. Well, they might melt, but I don't know. Well, it's a good, like seriously though, like plexiglass. I know this was discussed pretty heavily. I think it maybe had been Wickens crash or Alotian's 2014 crash, Conway 2010. It's always been discussed every time there's one of those. And I really wish there was a way to make plexiglass work, but apparently that's years away. So to just be funny, I guess I said singles. What about you, Mike?
So my non-serious answer is going to be beer cans.
Oh God, get to see through it though.
Okay.
Beer bottles.
Tequila bottles. Well done, Jess. My serious answer, and I'm totally making this up on the fly, some sort of, I don't know, titanium, instead of it being whatever a catch fence is made out of, I'm going to keep it a similar style in look, but it be made out of some sort of flexible-ish type titanium or carbon fiber metal that has a little bit more give into it and has no metal posts.
Okay.
So not cheese.
That's all I got. No cheese.
Oh, okay. Just clearing that up.
Just beer bottles for him.
Tequila bottles.
So my well, none of these are serious. Who am I kidding?
Do you have a list in front of you?
No, but I was just thinking because you guys were saying you're serious, you're more serious one, and you're less serious. No, none of these are serious. We're not engineers. So my first one, I guess, is going to be bulletproof glass. Pretty sure that it could take, the hit of a car and not shatter, and it's got that film stuff, so it wouldn't be shattering into the crowd either. So I'm gonna say bulletproof glass, probably a little more cost effective than plexiglass or titanium
or beer cans.
I really don't know. No. I bet you could buy the bottles cheap, just not with the beer in them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, probably.
I don't know. And then my less serious one, I guess. Let's see here. I'm just looking around in my house. What do I have sitting around that is clear?
A Pizza Hut box? No, that's not clear.
No, not clear. But man, if you could make it out of clear pizza boxes, and then they have the little tables, I'm talking about, that little thing in the middle that holds the pizza box up, so that when they got hit, the box wouldn't collapse because it had the little pizza table in there. I like it.
Oh, God. I mean, I suggested translucent cheese, so I don't think your request is that far off.
I'm banking on those little plastic tables in the inside of the pizza on saving us, guys.
Yikes.
By the way, we are not engineers. This is just for fun.
Couch heroes.
I hope not.
Oh, shoot. All right. Well, I'm glad that we got to have a little fun there. We are going to jump into our next fan question. This one is going to come from Mark Van Niekerk. He wants to know, in our opinion, is Santino Ferrucci going to get a break with a bigger team like a Penske or Ganassi or Andretti? Or is he going to get basically stuck buying rides due to his colorful past?
I don't know if it'll be in 2020 because I know he does have an option to continue with Dale Coyne for next year, but I think he's shown a lot of skill this year. So whether it be in 2020 or whenever his next contract is completely available and the option to return to Coyne maybe isn't there, I think he definitely will get a break at some point for sure. Whether it be this year or next year, he's definitely earned the right to quote unquote move up in the racing team world.
Yeah, I mean, out of the big teams, I think Arrow McLaren SP is the only one that really has a vacant seat for next year. So as far as just next year, that would probably be his only hope. But like Mike said, if we're looking maybe long term, yeah, absolutely. I think if he can just keep it up and if he can continue to be very consistent and show a lot of pace while also keeping in mind of his colorful past, hasn't put a foot wrong this year. So if he can continue to kind of show that, he has character and that maybe the past is the past and that, he's just, now changed himself or helped grow to becoming a more mature person off the track. I think if he can continue to do that, I don't think it's out of the realm that, maybe a Ganassi or an Andretti will come calling one day and asking him if he wants to join their teams.
Yep, I am going to agree with you guys wholeheartedly. I don't see his past holding him back, and if it does, it's a real shame. I think that the big teams would be missing out on an incredible talent. And as far as next season, no, I don't see it happening. Just going specifically off what Dale Coyne said, saying that he had a contract and did not have a driver option for next year, I don't see him going there, but stranger things have happened. But I definitely think, after next season, when he does get that driver option, I think we could definitely see him moving up.
Yeah, great question there. Thanks, Mark. Another question from everybody's favorite Packers fan, David Lighting, at DLight_47. During this week's radio show, Kurt Cabin, what's the show? Trackside. Kurt Cabin and Kevin Lee were pondering the idea of maybe Juan Pablo Montoya or Helio Castroneves driving for the new McLaren team next year. Do you think either is a possibility?
Possibility? Probably not. I think if McLaren were to hire Montoya is the kind of guy that just jumps into a car and is almost instantly good. Doesn't matter about the setup, doesn't matter about, sort of matters about quality of equipment. But, he can hustle a car really well. So I think he would be definitely kind of a good veteran teammate for the team. And if they had a younger guy like Santino or a Herta or whoever, I think that'd be a good dynamic for the team. Helio, listen, he's super experienced and all that, and definitely gonna know what to do when it comes to Indianapolis in the month of May, which is something that McLaren may need after last year. But is he going to win you a driver championship? History tells us no. So I would probably opt for Montoya if I had to choose from those two.
I'm going to pull a mic here and just say no. I don't think that either would be a great option. It's just that they just haven't had the time in these cars, unfortunately. Yeah, Elio's run the 500 and he ran Indy GP, but I just don't see it being a great option for them. There's what I would call better options, at least in my opinion. for that team to kind of get them, I guess, off the ground and running. But again, stranger things have happened.
Yeah, Jess, you stole my own words there. I don't know. I like the idea of Montoya, like Matt said, but the man's been able to let his fitness go a little bit just driving these heavier sports cars. And you can definitely tell that. And yeah, I don't know if, maybe at this point he even has the desire to get back into IndyCar, being 44 or 45. And, he seems pretty happy with what he's doing and focusing on his son's career and the sports car racing. Elio, I don't know. This might anger Elio fans, but since the new IR18 body kit or aero kit has come out, last year's 500 we could blame on partially the heat, and maybe everybody was inexperienced with the car. This year, I don't know. He just didn't really have a fantastic race day. I know he qualified fine, but race day was kind of average at best, and then a couple pit lane penalties certainly didn't help him. So I don't really think it would be the greatest of ideas. If anybody, Elio, just because simply he's probably can fit into the car a little bit easier than Montoya can.
Mean.
Yeah, I know. But great question, David. And I hope the Packers go 0-16 this year.
I just hope they lose both games against Chicago. That's all I want. Again, I'm super nervous for week 1, which is coming up. Oh, God. It's 2 weeks from tomorrow. Today's Wednesday. All right, we're going to jump into Gateway. We do have a race this weekend. Super excited. Jess will be at the track, so if you see Jess, definitely give her a shout or wave to her or give her a high five, whichever. Diving into the preview here real quick, our top 5 from last season at Gateway was Will Power, followed by Rossi, Dixon, Pagano, and Zach Veach snuck in the top 5. Good for him. I would really like to see that this year, too. A little championship outlook, kind of like what Mike said earlier on the show. If Rossi would only have finished one place above or below Newgarden, the championship would have been vastly different than it is now, because now Rossi is 30 points behind Newgarden after his accident at Pocono. Pagano is now 40 points back, so he's slowly but surely reeling in a Newgarden. And then Dixon is 52 points back, and he has been on a tear here recently. So slowly but surely, Pagano and Dixon are creeping into the championship picture here, and then everybody kind of beyond them is out of the picture. Some guys are still mathematically eligible, but really it's just down to those 4. Unfortunately, Dragon Speed was supposed to race at Mid-Ohio, correct?
I think it was Road America was when they were supposed to race next after the 500.
Okay, so they were supposed to race earlier on this year at Road America. And then at the time, the team said they had visa issues and they couldn't get, some crew guys and whatnot, essential personnel to the shop and to the track to, outfit the team. And so then they said, possibly Gateway would be on their radar. And unfortunately, those visa issues are persisting. I know Jess pitfalled them for this a couple weeks ago, but these issues are persisting. So they will not be at the track, unfortunately, this weekend, which is a bummer because I've enjoyed them at the track when they've been there. But moving on from there, as far as predictions, what do you guys got doing very well this weekend?
So I'm going to say Alex Rossi is going to put on an Alex Rossi show and win by like 2 laps. We've seen this year Rossi drive angry, like at the 500 when he had unfortunate issue after issue, whether it be a pit stop or back markers getting in the way. We heard his radio, and then we saw how he closed the gap to finish second. After last week and his frustration, he's going to be driving like a bat out of hell this weekend. I guess I
like it.
Who's going to struggle, or should I let Jess go first?
Go ahead, Jess.
I'm going to say Ferrucci. I mean, it's kind of hard to root against him on ovals this season. He's just doing so well. And yeah, I know he hasn't put it together and won one yet, but he's just killing it on ovals. He seems to really have found his groove on them. So really looking forward to watching him.
It would be nice out of Santino oval races if he just didn't have to avoid any crashes in the race. They're cool to watch him avoid, like Indy and him sending it at Pocono, but I really just hope we don't have to see it this weekend. But he should do very solid. I'm going to go with shameless plug driver ratings. I'm going to go with the statistically best rated driver the last 2 years at Pocono, and Scott Dixon. He's done very well, and it's just hard to argue with him against him right now. He's just, even at Iowa, didn't really have the best car and somehow finished second. So it's never a bad bet to go with Scott Dixon. So I'm going to do that. But as far as your guys' struggles, who do you guys got struggling this weekend?
Just to correct you real quick, we're at Gateway this weekend, not Pocono. I'm pretty sure if we raced twice in a row at Pocono, the Twitter world would have an implosion.
We don't want to do that again?
No, I mean I would, but I like Gateway too. So my prediction for somebody to struggle is going to be, I don't want to take the low hanging fruit. I'm going to take Ed Carpenter. He had a good race in Pocono, but hasn't really had more than one or two good races on the 5 ovals in many years, whether it be qualifying or bad luck during a race or what have you. It's just, I'll just leave it at that.
I'm not going to take the low-hanging fruit.
That's what I wanted to do.
I'm not going to do it. I actually didn't even really want to, because it's kind of just become hard to, because I just would like to see him not struggle so much. But I'm going to go a little bit different direction here. I'm going to say Veach. I don't think he's having a great season. I think I honestly don't even know what he's struggling with at this point. I think he's just struggling overall. Maybe it's the just a slump. I don't know, but I'm gonna say Veach is gonna have a rough one for some reason.
Yeah. So as far as whichever track we're racing at this weekend, since I do this like every week and mix up tracks, I think, based on his performance last year, I thought James Hinchcliffe had a very poor race last year. I know he was just getting lapped left and right. And if I cheat, as Mike would have taught me to, he finished two laps down last year. Did I do a good job, Mike?
You did. I have it up.
Okay, perfect. I didn't get it wrong, so that's good. And I think I said the right track this time. So I think Hinch is going to be in a struggle for the race. He was just a one-car effort there last year as they sat out the number 6 car with the Wickens crash. And, if Ericsson can help the team there, maybe they can do some good, But I think, based on what I saw last year, I'm not super hopeful that Hinch is going to have a good race again, unfortunately. And then let's see. So I mentioned Jess is going to be there. If for those who haven't checked, and I bet Jess is super excited about this, Gateway is just an absolutely packed schedule this year with just so much action. Indy Pro 2000, Indy Lights, NASCAR Trucks, I think, is racing there as well.
K&N series, is that the trucks?
Not an expert. It sounds like a Mike question. So if Mike could look that up, but yeah,
I'm looking it up.
Okay, but yeah, so it's just such an action-packed weekend. Is this kind of the best either non-Indy oval or maybe just kind of outside of Indy? Is this kind of the weekend that just has the best entertainment value for fans as far as just sheer things to do?
Yes. I'm sorry, Jess. I know you were just about to.
I'm like, yes to what? Because you were looking something up and he asked a question.
So they are not, the trucks are not at Gateway. So Jess was right. It is the K&N, or I think it's ARCA, or one of those small car.
It's K&N. I'm looking at the schedule.
Okay. Not the trucks. But in terms of Matt's question, yeah, I mean, you have, Indy Pro 2000, Indy Lights, K&N. There's something going on all day. So you are glued in your seat watching racing, walking around the paddock, and there's always cars going every which way. I'm pretty sure they also have a really cool vintage car or Indycar display just outside the paddock area, if I remember correctly, from last year. So they
actually run laps, the vintage cars do.
Yes, thank you. So they put on a fantastic display, and there's something to do pretty much from the time the track opens until the time the track closes. I don't think it gets much better than that.
Yeah, and remember they had that huge stage last year too with like bands all day and stuff. So yeah, they have all kinds of entertainment options if you don't want to watch cars all day. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch cars all day? But some people, they're crazy. So there's bands and all kinds of food options and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I agree. It's an awesome option outside of Indy, obviously. And it's nice because, you know, the majority of the fan base is here in Indy, and it's only about a 3.5 hour drive. So it's not that bad. It's kind of like the last hurrah of summer this weekend with IndyCar. And then not to go off subject, but next weekend is the U.S. Nationals here in Indianapolis too. So it's kind of like the last, you know, racing fix of the year, I guess, for most of the people who live in the greater Indianapolis area.
Yes, and actually, so shout out to the new sponsors of the actual track at Gateway, World Wide Technology Raceway. A lot of us are probably still going to say Gateway, but it's good to have them. That was announced several months ago, but it's good to have them on board. And yeah, it's everything you guys said. It's definitely great value, and who wouldn't love to see that much, you know, on-track action. So it should be a good time, and super appreciative again of the Bommarito Auto Group and a lot of people that came together a couple years ago to get this organized, because it is definitely one of the marquee events now on the calendar, just either from a racing perspective and just from a fan value perspective. So good on everybody who puts this together.
Yeah, very well said. Thanks to Jess for the assistance on what NASCAR series was actually racing there. Well, my brain spun in circles. But moving on, a quick shout out. Obviously, as Matt mentioned, Jess will be in Gateway. I will be missing this weekend for my brother's wedding, so I don't know if he'll be listening because I'm pretty sure he's busy, but congrats to my brother and his fiance on getting married. I'm sure it will be a great time, and if I can sneak my phone and have the race on live, I will. If not, I'll watch it Sunday morning so we can talk about it next week at our regularly scheduled time. But we have a Pitfall sponsor going forward now, which is pretty cool. So this, going forward, our pitfalls are going to be sponsored by Craft 1861, an all-natural CBD product company for your health and wellness. If the name sounds familiar, they were the company on RC Enerson's car during the Circuit of the Americas test back in February. So really, really thankful to be, have them on the program here. If you go onto their website, craft1861.com, and you buy anything, and you enter the promo code. Now, I did not make this, guys. I know you're going to say that. MJokum, you can get 10% off your order, I believe. And we're working to make that even more of a discount in the near future. So with that.
And now it's time for Pit Lane Parlay's Pitfalls of the Week.
Let's go right down the list here. Jess, I'll let you start it off.
All right, I'll keep mine short and sweet because it's kind of like beating a dead horse, and we know I don't like that. So people have, I guess, gotten refocused on Ferrucci because he had a really awesome race this past weekend, and so we've gone back to hating on Ferrucci. I haven't seen a darn thing this year to hate on with this kid. He's been very good to us. He's given us his time. He's been very nice every time we've talked to him. He's always had great answers to everything. I've never heard him say anything off color, or downright rude, mean, nothing like that. He's just a good kind of fun-loving kid. So just leave him alone. Let him grow up. We all made mistakes as kids. Unfortunately for him, were covered by the media and got out there for the world to see, where some of us, or the majority of us, I should say, have been luckier in our mistakes. We're a little less out there for everybody to see. So just let him grow up. Let him keep becoming a better human. And we all have been there. Just leave the poor kid alone.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Just, I can't remember if I said this on the air before we were talking. He held a car rally this weekend where he got 70, fancy sports cars to come. They got to ride a lap on the track. Everybody got paddock passes and tickets to the race. And then he had another 100+ people come down from Connecticut. He's a good kid doing great things for IndyCar. So I agree with Jess.
Yeah, and all of the proceeds of that event went to charity, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So I feel like we're in that phase where anytime he is going to do something well on the track, that people kind of keep beating that dead horse of his past and kind of just echo everything that Jess said. But moving on, my pitfall this week is going to be, unfortunately, IndyCar. This is in regards to their post-race review of the first lap accident at Pocono. Obviously, there was a lot that happened in that accident and a lot that we had to take in. And there's a lot of different onboard cameras, camera shots, things like that need to be reviewed to kind of assess what exactly happened. And so after the accident, IndyCar, in my opinion, correctly stated that they will wait till after the race to kind of assess any penalties or statements or anything like that. That was on Sunday. It is now Wednesday night. The Gateway entry list got released today. Takuma Sato's name's on it, which, if that's the conclusion that IndyCar comes to, that, we find Takuma Sato, we put Takuma Sato on probation, we deem that there's no further action warranted. If they came to any of those conclusions, whether we agree with them or not, the fact that we haven't even heard a determination yet, to me, kind of frustrates me. I would like to see either if they've made progress, if they've come to a decision, anything like that, because now that the entry list is out, I'm suspecting that he didn't get suspended. It'd be kind of weird if he did now because, the official entry list came out. It's kind of weird if they just remove somebody all of a sudden, and if that puts Ray Hall kind of behind the 8 ball to find a driver to fill in for the weekend. So I'm just kind of disappointed that we haven't seen any decision, and we're on day 3.5, 4 since the crash. I just think it's weird that they haven't come out and said anything yet, and I'm kind of disappointed by it.
I can't argue that one. If Jess has any input there, and
yeah, by this point they should have said something. We're all kind of sitting around waiting to see what happens. So hopefully we'll see something tomorrow, I guess.
So I'll wrap it up here. My pitfall is all of the fans who have either said some racial things, or I've even seen a few kind of goofy videos making fun of Takuma Sato in a racial way, regardless of what happened and who we deemed is at fault for what happened lap 1 at Pocono. There's just no place for that. I mean, he's still human. He's a good guy. He made a mistake. Whether the crash aside, there's just no place for anything like this. So I'm super disappointed that IndyCar fans, or maybe they're not real fans, are saying things like they've been saying on social media.
Yeah, frankly, it's disgusting. And while we, some of us out there may have one view or the other on, who was at fault, maybe what happened with the accident, there's absolutely zero place for that. Even though I do believe that Sato was the one who caused the crash, I still, really respect the guy and enjoy seeing him at the paddock and things like that. That's not going to change just because of this accident. I was still looking forward to seeing him in the future. I do like watching him race. He does have a lot of good, passes in his realm, and still a terrific guy. To see stuff like that is honestly, it's disgusting.
Took the word out of my mouth. Disgusting is 100% correct. I don't think I can find a word that is better to describe it. Like I just said, we've all made mistakes, and just bringing that particular part of him up, it has absolutely no merit whatsoever, and it's just ridiculous. Basically, I kind of just want to say, would you grow up, to all the people who feel it necessary to say things about his race. So yeah, let's just clean that up, fans, and I guess non-fans or whoever is saying those things. Just come on.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. And with that, guys, find Jess at the track on Saturday and say hello. And unless we have anything else, Jess, feel free to sign us off this week.
And guys, keep your lug nuts tight.
Here is the Racecast weather forecast for the Bommarito 500 at Gateway. I'm meteorologist Doug Schneider. A cold front is expected to cross through St. Louis on Thursday night. It'll be close enough to the track on Friday morning that there might be a small chance of rain during the morning hours. But since the on-track activity doesn't start until the afternoon, no impact is expected. Behind the front, drier air will build in from the north through the day, and with mostly cloudy skies, high temperatures will be quite comfortable in the lower 80s. As the front is expected to stall across southern Missouri Saturday, and high pressure over the Great Lakes will extend across Illinois, Sunday will stay dry. With partly cloudy skies, high temperatures Saturday will be in the mid-80s, but the humidity will be comfortably low. Temperatures during the race in the evening will be between 75 and 80 degrees. For the most up-to-date forecast and weather updates through the race, visit racecastweather.com and follow RacecastWX on Twitter.